And that's what happens when you start a show and there's all of us in here and we didn't mute it all out. So we're here. I'm going to go solo now because I'm like that. I'm just going to come back up to me as if none of that happened. How's that? That all worked perfectly. Well, as you can see, we are here. It's Friday. Welcome, everyone. We're here. It's Friday, the 21st of, I hope, February, and I hope 2025. Although there were better years, thinking about it. Anyone got a better year? 1726, perhaps? Don't know. And it's the evening. Robbie's not here, as you can tell, because it's a shambles already. And he's off. I think he's seeing a film with John Fox in it, up at where Synth East is. And so, Mike, I'm just going to mute your mic a little, if that's okay. Yes, he's watching a film ready for Synth East, which is happening tomorrow. More about that in a short while. And how have you all been this week out there in lovely PSN land? I hope you've had a good week. There's been not a lot going on. We've got some news. It's not the thinnest week we've ever had, but it's certainly not the most bulbous. I'd like my tummy. So I suppose what we ought to do is get on with a little housekeeping and deal with all the stuff that Robbie normally deals with aplomb. So let us get going with this. We'll go to... Here we go. So, give us a like. Andrew, do you see that, Andrew? You'll get it in the end. Give us a like, do. So, if you're watching... do have a look, hit that like button. It helps us enormously. The more likes we get, especially during the show, whilst the show's running, the better it is. But even if you're watching on catch up or later on, hello from the past, hello the future, how are you doing? Have skateboards, hoverboards or no? No, they haven't. It's funny, isn't it? When Robbie does that, it works really well. No, and I haven't even got Robbie to do the doom bell and the ding. So we're just stuck with me looking like a twonk. So, do like, you do share as well if you possibly can. Subscribe if you're not already. Why not? Do subscribe and invite lots of people because we usually have, apart from when I'm running this, a really good time here. We have a really good time here. So do the like and the share and the comment and subscribe. Yes, so talking of commenting, of course. In the YouTube chat or on Facebook or any of the other channels that we're on, comment, give us, say things about the show, jump in and give us some of your thoughts and suggestions other than go away. And if you happen to like what we're doing, say so, share it around, tell everyone. And if whilst you're doing that, if you've got any questions for any of the panelists, then put a big queue in front and one of our lovely mods, which we've got one of them in here tonight, which is the lovely Andrew Brooks. We'll come to him in a moment. Or there's also two other people, and I'm sure that Mr. Brooks will tell us who they are. You're unmuted, Andy.
Hello. Two other people. There's you, there's Dr. Metlay, and there's me. That's three.
And the moderators?
Oh, they're the moderators. Ben Musines and
Andrew
Synth Addict.
Andy's Synth Addict. There we go. So I'm just going to bugger off. There we go. So I've muted both of them again. I'm just terrible. I'm ruthless. See that? Everyone's gone. So listen, I'm going to bring those in just a moment. But before I do the liking thing. Do the following us on all of these platforms that we're on. We're on YouTube. Of course, Blue Sky, Twitch, Instagram, Threads. We're not on the other one that we used to be on anymore because I just don't like it. And, of course, support us on Patreon. If you don't mind, or on YouTube, you can subscribe on YouTube with a paid subscription. Either of those means you get additional content from the likes of Robbie, myself, Kent, all sorts of people. We get sound banks. You get freebies from all sorts of wonderful sound designers. I think James Dyson, I think Mark Barnes. There's someone else as well. And it will come to me, or someone will remind me. And, do just give us your money, basically. And talking of giving us your money, I know that somewhere here we have an online store thingy, but I don't know. Oh, here we go. There it is. I got something right. So yes, come and have a look at us on the thing that we've got there. There it is, and buy things like this. Not like this. You can't get this. That's just for me, because I am too pretty. And there we go. So I've just screwed up the merch. I've screwed up the intro. And now I'm going to introduce some other people who definitely won't be screwing it up. And before we go any further, I think the one person we always look forward to hearing from, well, we look forward to hearing from all of them, but the one person we really look forward to hearing from is Mr. Spong. How are you doing, Mr. Spongy?
I got internet.
You've got internet?
Yeah. It did go again since we spoke, but it's back.
So, am I right in
For
thinking
now.
you may or may not be with us throughout the whole show?
I really, really don't know.
Right.
Hey, but it was cheap. That's all that really matters. As long as the internet's cheap, I'll have to put up with it vanishing for no apparent reason every now and again.
And how's your week been? I spoke to you earlier, and I saw a rather lovely box on the floor beside you about to go out the door. Was that right?
Oh, yes, the 3200's finished, yeah. Yes.
Oh, gosh.
And apparently there is somebody very eager to purchase it for £120,000.
What?
I know.
You are joking, man.
No. I wish I was.
No.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's mental. So, but there you go. You can't
That's
argue
an
with
awful lot
facts
of
like
money.
that.
That's an awful
This
lot of
still
money.
isn't working properly, so I'm only using one headphone.
So your ear's still giving you the white noise seashore on the shore, shore.
Yeah, I mean, for the last 4 days, I've been listening to what appears to be something like a broken radiator, which is not good.
No.
Steam escaping.
I'm only laughing because I find it funny.
Yeah. Well, it's after 4 days. Trust me, you don't.
No, I know.
It's sort of like
I do get that. But listen, I hope you get over it at some point. Although it seems to have been going on for weeks, doesn't it?
yeah, it's about. I think this is week 5 now. But like the doc said, he said it could take up to a year to go. So we'll see.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So mono mixes for the next year.
Mix. What is that?
And talking of mixes, shall we say hello to another meister of mixerness who does a lot of momming, Mr. Brooks. How are you, Mr. Brooks?
Muted, mostly.
I'm muted. Oh, yes, so I am. There we go.
There we are, you've done it. Right, okay. Sorry, you did that because I was blowing my nose furiously and sneezing in inappropriate places.
And not at all because I'm a total twonk and got it wrong.
Yeah, no, yeah, well, it's half term for me, which means I'm being ill. Just been really grotty for the best part of this week. Had to cancel a musical date with Grace. Grace didn't want me bringing all my snotty, grotty germs around.
Quite right.
Which, so I felt rough. Well, it's not been an unproductive week. Everything had been cleared out of this room, so I could give it a good clean down and just sort a few things out, a bit of, clear out sort of stuff.
Did you? May I ask? Did you find the errant peanut I left behind one of your modules?
I did find your peanut. I have no idea how the peanut got into that particular location, but it was there and was duly hoovered up into oblivion. I hope you don't mind.
If you look at it carefully, you will find it's inscribed with love from Dr Mike.
Oh, well, I don't know how he got his peanuts over here, but anyway, I'm sorry, Dr. Mike, I've hoovered up your peanuts. It's gone into the dust bag of oblivion. So,
do you know what, Mike? That may be the next radio show for you, the dust bag of oblivion. Would you like to tell us what it's going to contain?
You can have that for free, Mike. Honestly, I'll let you have that one.
It's actually going to be probably a band. Hello, all you nice people in the computer, and Thank you all for having me, Kent. I'm glad to hear that you've got your internet back. Hopefully, it holds.
There's a man talking to me from the 1950s. What's going on?
Yeah. What is the black and
white? Why are you black and white, darling?
I am black and white because the one thing that I have never, ever, ever gotten working properly on this studio computer system is a half decent webcam.
Wow.
Don't be surprised if I freeze up. So you'll end up with like 5 minutes of basically looking at me going,
Mike, would you like a Logitech C920? Kind of standard.
You want to see my C920? You want to see what it looks like? This is a Brio. And this is good. I'll show you what my C920 looks like on this machine. No. I've got one. The two of them are right next to each other.
I think mine's one of those.
They work for everybody but me. I have no idea why. I have horrible luck with webcams. And Andrew, don't worry about the peanut. I'll send you more, and they will turn up in weird places. Well, it was. A quick story, very quick story. My wife.
Here we go. Sorry. Here we go, folks. We've started. Mike, go.
Yeah. You put in the quarter. You got to wait till the song finishes. Very, very quick story. My wife Suzanne teaches at an online university, and most of her students are absolutely fantastic. But every once in a while, she gets, I guess you call them not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And so, this is related to the peanut showing up someplace where you never would have expected it. She gets, shall we say, a little bit demonstrative when a student is being particularly idiotic. And I came home from work and she was frantic. She had lost her engagement ring. And she had her engagement ring and her wedding ring on one finger. She heard a clink. She looked down. The wedding ring was there, and it was holding the engagement ring on her finger, but the engagement ring was gone, and she didn't hear it. So she had torn her office apart, couldn't find it. I finally went in. It took me an hour. What had happened was she was so angry at this kid that when she was talking to him, she wasn't on video, but she was so mad that she was gesticulating. And so what happened
was... Her ring
had
flown off.
The wedding ring on this motion flew off and hit the floor. Before she followed what was going on, her hand went like this. She was looking in front of her. It was behind her, and a little tiny plushie of Stitch had caught the ring.
So when you said quick story, and then in the story you said for an hour. Story. For an hour, something, and I thought you were going to say for an hour I was telling her a story because right.
No, she's the only person in the world who can tell me shut up and make it stick. No, my stories to her tend to be very short because she.
Imagine we're her. So,
yeah, right.
Hello, everyone.
None of you is that smart, and none of you is that pretty.
That's very true. That's very, very true. Any one of us, yes, would not dare.
Yeah. The closest thing you're going to get to any kind of control like that in this show is going to be the fact that my chief heckler is in chat. Big shout out up to Lancashire, to Diana Smethurst, whom some of you have met at Synthfest. My trusty factotum, and the person who can make all sorts of horrible comments about me and get away with it. I'm done now. On to the news.
Well, I mean, you say that. You say that.
What news?
We've got through 15 minutes, and only 14 of those were you, Mike. So yeah, we're doing well. What? Right. I'm going to without any further ado. So listen, the reason that Robbie's not here, keeping us all in order, is because, as I said earlier, he's at Synth East with Robbie and Vincent, and he's run by Robbie and Vincent, and Robbie and Peter, James Stephen are both there showing off their wares, their goodies tomorrow. And tonight they're watching a film by the lovely, or starring the lovely John Fox. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Brooksy?
Yes. That's the first night they've got that. There was a sort of interview thing with him. Then they're watching the film. I don't know the details of the producer, director, and all that of the film, but it's. I think it's. Does it also cover some of the work he's done with Ben Edwards, Benj? It might do. I may be wrong about that. Well, that's the first bit, and then tomorrow is the main expo with the patch-off sessions where people get drawn together to do modular jams live on stage. I did that a couple of years ago with Robin, which was a really fun thing to do. So Nikki from Dots is one of the people this year, so I'm going to go down and give Nikki some support. So tomorrow at about 7 o'clock in the morning, I'll be jumping into my car and heading across to Norwich, the most inaccessible place other than Stornoway. It just takes forever to get to Norwich. But yeah, Synth East, there'll be lots of people there. I'm looking forward to it very much.
And here it is. We've got all of these, this lovely goodies. I'm not sure if there are any tickets left now. I think they've probably sold out, but it's always worth having a try, as it were. But there's a lot of people at this, and there's a lot of manufacturers. It seems to be getting more and more popular each year, doesn't it? Are you actually playing there tomorrow?
No,
Andy.
I'm not. No, I played the first one. The first one when they sort of created this patch off idea. So that's basically something from Steve Davis. So Steve Davis will be there, Gaz Williams, Robin Vincent, Nikki from Dots. Who else? I've forgotten now. Am I forgetting somebody important?
Oh.
I forget.
Paulie? Is it Paulie Bow?
No, Paulie's actually playing with Robin at the evening event. They're going to do a semi-improvised thing. I won't be around for that. I'll have headed home by then, but.
And hopefully by the time Michael, you're coming over next year, aren't you? I know. Sorry, not next year. Later on this year, you're not
twice.
coming. You're coming over twice.
I'm coming over to Europe twice. I'm hoping that the second time I can be in the UK. Suzanne and I are going to be traveling. I've got a concert that I'm going to be doing in Finland, and my hope is that before I fly over there for rehearsals, I can spend some time and actually get to meet all of you guys.
Cool.
Finland.
When is that?
Finland,
Right.
the country where I quite want
to be.
Yep. Anyway, sorry. Question somebody had?
Sorry. Yeah. When is that happening? When are you coming over?
It'll be mid-July.
Okay.
I'll either be coming alone. I'm hoping Suzanne will be with me. Otherwise, you guys will never get a word in edgewise when we get together. And from there, the concert is going to be in a beautiful, beautiful concert hall in northern Finland on August 2nd.
Finland.
The country where I quite want to be. Yes, we did that joke already, Andrew. Moving on.
Yeah. Well, listen, here's the other thing.
1975, actually.
75, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 1975. That joke was actually originally done. So,
My wife and I do it all the time. It's a terribly sad thing. But listen, talking of Finland, there is absolutely no connection with what I'm going to talk about next, which is that for reasons best known to themselves, and I'm just trying to find the right blummin', where are we? Here we go. I'm just going to pop this up. Here we go. Right, so for reasons best known to themselves, which are all really, really good. Here we go. And there we go. We have this happening. So the winter 2025 raffle. You've probably seen it, but you need to know about this. This is a full-on Matrix-12 that's being, let me just see if I can make that larger. There we go. That's being auctioned, or not auctioned, they're doing a raffle for this thing. This is the one that belonged to Doug Curtis, and it's being signed by, I believe, by Tom and Marcus, because it says so there, and Michael Doidik.
Michel Doidik, who is the other guy that never gets credited with the design of the expander in Matrix-12. He and Marcus were the team that built it.
You see, that's why you're here, because you know this stuff. I'm just looking at it going, I don't know, I just remember it sounded really good and I love it and I want it.
I owned one for 34 years, an expander.
An expanded Matrix 12. Ken, have you had the Matrix-12 in at all?
Oh, bloody hundreds of them.
Hang on. Tell.
I'd like to know which one of them designed the power supply so I can give him a slap.
Well, it's funny you should say that because we've got Marcus in next week. He's on the show next week.
You can ask him.
I will tell you more about.
Him, yeah.
I will tell you more about that. But if you don't ask him, I certainly will, because that sounds like a really good thing to ask.
I was always having problems with the power supplies. Always.
Oh yeah.
So
God damn it.
That was
so going back to this thing. Sorry, young Michael.
No worries.
I'll step aside in a moment for you to do this. So here we go. There's this wonderful instrument, and this is the one originally owned by Doug. So it's a brilliant sounding thing. I've used them years ago. I've always lusted after one, but even when they were cheap, I could never afford one. It was just always the wrong time for the money thing, as it were. But now you can get one of these beautiful things, again, helping out the wonderful Bob Moog Foundation, and Michelle and all the people involved with it. Who'd like to see a little video about this?
Oh, yes, please.
Would you?
Yes.
I've just got to find the right one. Here we go. Here's a video.
The Matrix-12 was, and still is, one of the most preeminent synthesizers.
This 40-year-old synthesizer still sounds just as amazing as it did day one.
It was the pinnacle of synthesizer design and technology. It's just taken it all to a higher level.
After all these years, the musicians are turning back to that technology. It's a richer sound.
It's the one synthesizer. If I'm going to play on a synthesizer, it's the one I go to. Tom Oberheim, thankfully, gave Michel Douadic, the other principal engineer, and myself almost, free rein to explore what could be possible.
For 5 wonderful years, Marcus contributed to just about everything that came out of Oberheim, all the way up to a machine that was just beyond anything that anybody else had done in the Matrix-12, and that was the pinnacle of all the machines that Oberheim did up to that point.
When I joined...
And I think I'm just going to stop it there and bring us all back in, I think, because there's plenty to talk about here, isn't there? So, thoughts, gentlemen, about owning one of these, about, being able to afford one of these, buying a ticket for it? Mike, what about you?
Well, I talk about the expander a lot. The expander is how I got into this business. When I got out of school and I no longer had access to academic electronic music studios where I had been unbelievably freaking spoiled, I wanted to be able to do modular stuff at home. And the expander had just come out. The Matrix-12 hadn't been announced yet. And basically, this machine is why I never got into modular again, why I never did Eurorack, because it was everything a good small Eurorack system would have been, but it was polyphonic, multi-timbral, and it could remember your patches. And I was just like, I am so fucking done with those refrigerators full of patch cables. Never again. It's an amazing instrument. It sounds gorgeous. And 6 voices multi-timbral was the perfect limitation for me. I actually had a setup that if I'd stuck with it, I probably would have gotten a lot more music done, but I got into the whole one more box will make me better thing. But I had the expander and an Oberheim XK keyboard. I had an MC202 and a TR-707.
So why, aside from the cost, why not the Matrix-12?
Well, first of all, by the time the Matrix-12 came along, I had already had my expander. And what I had discovered was I had 2 of them for a while. That's a story I'm not going to get into. But what I discovered was that the expander had so much power to it that more than 6 voices was overkill. If you created a sound that only sounded good if you had all 10 fingers on the keys, you were doing it wrong. But I met a lot of people through the expander. The expander was how I started. The expander user group was how I eventually got connected with Oberheim, which was my first in with the industry. It's how I got to know people like Alan Holdsworth and Trent Reznor. This was years before Pretty Hate Machine. He was working at a keyboard store in Cleveland and doing the demos for what would become Pretty Hate Machine at home.
And the funny thing is, you mentioned Alan Holdsworth as well, and even as a keyboard player, I've always absolutely adored Alan Holdsworth.
I only got to actually talk to Alan once or twice, but he was an amazing human. And everybody says, how was he able to play that way? And you want to know why? Because he was an alien. Okay, he had these fingers. He had these enormous, long, spindly fingers, which could play chord shapes that no human could possibly do.
He was actually Rachmaninoff, wasn't he? He actually was.
No, he was actually Doctor Who. That's my theory.
He may have been. That was his sonic screwdriver. Talking of sonic screwdrivers, Kent, tell us. I mean, so the Matrix-12, it's now up for the raffle for Michelle and the Bob Moog Foundation. Is it something that you might be tempted to go and grab? Because you can fix the power supply.
Yeah, I know. It's funny enough. It's one of those things that I never quite gelled with. From a musician's point of view. The one thing that I will say about the Matrix-12, which separates it from all the other synthesizers from 40 odd years ago, is I could carry 2 of them at once down to the workshop. They weren't heavy. They're really, really light, you know.
Very true.
They're very well laid out. There's a lot of room inside to get at everything you need to get at. But
and from a programming point of view, they are, you know, that front
they're
panel
nutty.
is
Yeah,
really
they're nutty.
good
And
to program.
But it was one of those synths where you look at the voicing board and you listen to the sounds that it was making. You go, how are you getting those sounds from just that small amount of electronics? Because the sounds it made were well beyond the sum of its parts. I have to say.
As Mike has said about the expander, which is essentially the same. This is
This
is essentially two expanders, isn't it?
Yeah.
With a couple of very minor tweaks, yes.
Yeah, there's a few little bits and bobs that are required for it having a keyboard as well. But yeah, it is a lovely sounding piece of equipment. But
it really is.
I think the reason I didn't really get involved with it in a studio environment was because, once
you got the 80.
Once you got one of these knocking about,
you see, and the
all
difference
the other
is
synths pale into the insignificance for me.
I saw the
personally.
Matrix-12 like you see the Polybrute 12, the 80 and the Polybrute. The MX8. M8X and the Polybrute 12. That's how I saw the Matrix-12. The Matrix-12 was the Andy,
like I say, some lucky person's going to win it, and they
should.
Be pleased with it. Yeah.
They need all the money they can get.
And they
still,
go for
especially
stupid money now. I think.
Yeah, Andy, have you ever sort of
10K.
lusted after one of these?
I have only ever played one once. That was for a very short time in the music studio at the University of Newcastle upon Tyne. I can't even remember how I ended up in there, if I'm honest with you. I think somebody said, "Oh, you like since I'll get you in there." That room was full of all sorts of stuff, actually, including a Fairlight, and a whole stack of Oberheims. And I did play one very, very briefly. It's interesting, Mike, because you mentioned the expander. It's the expander that really was in the forefront of my thinking. Really, loads of people were using it that I loved, and 808 State, Orbital.
Oh, yeah.
Orbital used to tour with an expander.
Yep.
You know,
for his first 2 albums, Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor lived and died by it.
Absolutely, yeah. Pity Hate Machine, Downward Spiral, all those sounds are all over it. It's it's a synth I've sort of lusted after, really. I don't know why it doesn't sort of resonate as highly in sort of like as say something like an OBX-A. You know, the OBX-A. But actually, it's so much deeper. You mentioned the fact that, you know, you ditched all the modular because you've got your expander, and that modulation matrix made it essentially a modular synthesizer.
It was.
With a somewhat different and perhaps tidier and, like you said, programmable interface. I think I don't think you can compare them with modern Eurorack. Eurorack is a world apart now. It's
it's
different, but you know, I could totally understand why at that point where you'd go, I've got it all in a box. It's got MIDI. I can program it.
Yeah, and it was compared to the size.
And cheap compared to one of those things.
Well, I was working in a studio that had a Buchla 100 and an ARP 2500 next to each other.
Oh, yeah.
And the vast majority of what those machines could do, could do in the expander. The other thing about the Matrix-12 is, unless you spent extra, you didn't get individual voice outs. You only had a mono and a stereo. The one in the raffle, you can see it has the 12 voice outs. They actually had to you had to cut the hole in one of the end cheeks to and install a thing.
So I'm bringing this back to the raffle because that's what this is.
Buy tickets. Buy tickets.
Oh yes, I'll be definitely getting a ticket. I won't win. I never do. But if I don't enter, I won't win, will I? So that's sort of
no, you won't. And so this is, again, let's come back to this because the thing about these raffles is that Michelle and the Bob Moog Foundation have been through a really tough time, and I know the whole world's going through a tough time at the moment. But our industry is based on all of the kind that Bob Moog is what all of that. We wouldn't have any of this without him. None of it. And the history of music. There are others as well. I know there are others, but we wouldn't have the industry as we know it. We wouldn't. And so the Bob Moog Foundation has a legacy. It has libraries. It has educational projects. It has places for people to go. You know, the museum is a place where you can go and interact with this stuff. And they do all sorts of wonderful events over the year. And they got hit hard by the hurricane last year, and they're still trying to recover from that. And I think so. If any of you even slightly love the Matrix-12 or just love Moog, it would be a really good thing to buy some tickets. So I ask you all, please do go and buy some tickets for their raffle.
It is open to people outside the US, isn't it?
Yes, it's open to anyone. They will ship it to anywhere.
Okay, cool.
Except up north.
No, don't say that. I'm about to click pay now.
They have special shipping. They ship super fast courier to up north.
Up north.
They do.
Lots of planets have a north.
So we've got some news to talk about as well. Some other news to talk about. Shall we?
Well, I've got my ticket. I've done that now.
You've got your ticket.
Yeah.
If anyone else in the chat has bought a ticket or is buying a ticket, do drop us a little message and let us know, because it's always nice to be able to say to Michelle, look, we've featured it. It's doing this thing. Let's
absolutely. This is a great cause. And there's another wonderful thing about this raffle. Once it's over, there will never ever be another keyboard that I'll have more to talk about when a new raffle comes up. Because there is no keyboard in the world that I can talk more about than the Expander and the Matrix-12. So you guys are off the hook.
Well, you say you can't talk more about, but I think that's probably not entirely true.
Oh, it's a lie. It's a lie. But, enjoy it while you got it.
Is there going to be a Bukes book on the Matrix-12 then, Mike? Just asking.
The department can neither confirm nor deny.
An Oberheim one would be good, though. Just saying.
Oh, listen,
Yeah.
there are people that and this is not connected to Bukes at all. I'll simply say that among the people I would love to be doing books on, the two at the top of my list are Tom Oberheim and Alan R. Perlman. Because I'll say flat out, Kent, you were saying you just never connected musically with the Oberheim. I'm an Oberheim guy. I never, ever connected musically with Moog. I never connected with Sequential except for the Prophet T8, which everybody says is the one that sounds the worst. I think it's the only one that sounded good. And ARP I came to late in life. But I'd love to talk to Tom Oberheim, and I would love to talk to Alan R. Perlman.
So there's your pitch. Now, what we're going to do...
Bukes.com, BJOOKS.com.
Don't forget, I got photographs of that very, very rare dual manual 8-voice.
What?
Ooh.
Yeah. He only made 5.
And I've seen one.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's you see, vintage synth. You couldn't go anywhere else and get this kind of vintage synthness.
Is it in your garage, Kent? Just asking.
No. I restored it.
I see.
That's in the studio now, making beautiful music.
So, in other news, we get the news.
No, Justin, we are not doing a Buke on the Genos 2.
Or the Timberwolf, whoever put that one in. SEO head.
Or the PS 900.
We could.
No.
Anyway, talking of really useful things that people want, this has been. I saw this up in the channel over the last week or so from young Robbie brought it up. It is. Let me just pop this up here and see if I can't bring it up somewhere. Here we go. So this wrong one. So we'll remove that. We'll stop sharing that.
Back in time.
You see, we're just so organised. Well, I say we. I am just so organised. Clearly.
Yeah, put me back on screen. Just I'm blowing my nose off. Oh, thanks very much.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So here we go. Share screen, and there we go. There's this
wiping
thing.
His arse. I don't know if blowing his nose.
Now this.
Come on.
There we go. This. Yes, indeed. The Universal Synth Editor and Controller from Momo Muller, which is €6.90 or $7. I'm kind of puzzled a little by this, but I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think. So this is a software. If I can find the bugger here somewhere, here we go. It's a software interface, or it's sort of a software controller. So it sits on your desktop somewhere or in your DAW, and you can connect it via a hardware controller, which is also software. But it means you can use the hardware controller to connect your synth controllers or your hardware controllers to it, and then to this, and then from this to whatever you wish to control it directly. I think that's how it works. So I'm just kind of a bit puzzled by this as to what it's bringing that you don't already get just by plugging in a universal controller of whatever sort.
That was my question. I don't get it. You're putting a piece of equipment in between two pieces of equipment that are designed to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a joke in there, but I'm not going to tell it on this show.
Go on.
Well, there is.
Go on.
No. I'll get in so much trouble. But yeah, I don't get it. It's like he's trying to just, the synth editors that he's got, going down the thing here but I just don't get it. Do
you want to see a little video about it, just to see if it makes any more sense?
Please.
I'll just show a little bit of this. So here we go. It is actually running, by the way. Well, I think we've seen enough of that. Ken, what's your thoughts on this, mate?
Okay. Yes, initially I'm looking at this going, yeah, you're putting in a piece of software to help communicate between a piece of hardware and a piece of software that already communicates with each other perfectly. However, I think one of the uses of this would be, for instance, if you have a control on your synthesizer that's set to, I don't know, CC 110, and you want to use that particular control to control something that is not CC 110, this will be the way of, what's the word?
Translating
the CC to a different CC number to operate something you do want to operate.
But does it let you... Oh, I see what you mean.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, so what you're doing is you've got MIDI learn on one side, you've got MIDI learn on the other, and then the machine does the jiggery pokery to make sure
Exactly so. So, for instance, if, say for argument's sake, like you'll be set to certain things that you can't change. Like, for instance, if you've got your expression pedal, it's a set CC number. You can do MIDI learn in your software, and it'll work with that. But if you want to point it at something else to do via MIDI learn, it assigns the CC 110 to whatever piece of software. But the other way round, when you're communicating with stuff that is hardware and can't be changed, that can be the interpreter. So you can then select the CC number you specifically want for a specific control on a specific piece of equipment.
I mean, I've just been thinking about exactly that, because if I wanted, for instance, to control the filter and or the resonance and or the envelopes of, let's say, one of the Cherry audio plugins, if I'm working in a DAW, from this, I can either map it on here, which I can do. So here we go. On this, I can either map it on there, or rather than going through all that faff, I can just, as it's coming in, I can put this controller between the two and just map it on that, save it as something. So if ever I want to do that again, I've got it there ready to do. So it saves me.
Yeah, so it fires up with the different templates. Because otherwise you need to have your CC maps readily available to you.
Or go through the pain of mapping them individually in each piece of hardware, and that changes every time you change the preset.
At the drop of a hat, I would assume that the say for instance the filter control knob on my Hydra is set to CC76, or possibly CC74. I've seen them on CC74, but you get a rough idea. But there'll be other controls that are unique to that synth, and if you wanted to use them with a synthesizer under normal circumstances, it might not work the way you want it to work. And the same goes for things like the Roly, where the CC numbers of the controls on the Roly are designed specifically for expression type.
So you could then reassign them to whatever.
Like yeah, but if you want to start pointing it at other shit, you can with the interpreter, but it means you don't have to know what the CC numbers are for everything.
So you see, that suddenly starts making a lot more sense to me. Mr. Brooks, have you got any thoughts on this?
No, except as soon as Amanda Chowdhury typed in, anybody remember the MEP4?
Yeah,
the Yamaha MEP4. Suddenly I was like, oh, okay, it's remapping.
Yeah.
And that
remapping, that's the word.
That I thought, I get it now. I have zero use for it at all at the moment. Not an aspect of musical creativity that I'm involved in. So for those who sort of deal with a lot of that MIDI stuff, then I'm sure that this will be probably very useful. But it does seem very strange getting one thing to stick in.
Well, actually, I get
it. Go. Sorry, I get it, because back in the day of OS 9, God help us, Opcode, when they were still in business, they had these MIDI processors, interfaces processors that were enormously powerful. And I've actually got one that I can't use right now because I don't have an OS 9 machine handy. But it was the Studio 5LX, which was a 15 in, 15 out MIDI interface that also had processing. And you could do things like take the Roland U50, whose sliders produced these insanely mapped non-registered program number chains, and you could build filtering and remapping on them so that you could use them as ordinary faders anywhere else in your studio. And so when I was doing a lot of MIDI outside of the box, something like that was very valuable, and this sort of gives you the same kind of thing. I will note, however, Mids, one of the people in chat, noted that he has a Behringer Pro 800 in his rack that he never touches because he has one of Momo Muller's editors for it and does everything with that. If you scroll down, if you go to the webpage and you scroll down, he's got like 60 of them for all different makes and, cheap stuff, expensive stuff. So it's obvious he knows what he's doing and trying to build this sort of a universal layer. Yes.
And yes, Amanda, it does, from what I've seen, I did have a proper look earlier. From what I've seen, it does let you keep the mapping. So if you're using it on one door and you've done your mapping to whatever, it retains that you can retain it as a mapping regardless of which door you're on. That's my understanding. And then that starts making more sense. It just so happens I have, or used to have, working, and now it's not, a Psychologic M16, which did much the same thing in hardware. So it would take 16 inputs, 16 outputs, and do all of the remapping on the fly. Brilliant thing, brilliant.
That was a beast, that thing, wasn't it, the Psychologic?
It was, and it's a shame it died on me, but there we go. So, I mean, here's the thing, it's €6.90, and when I first
looked it's not exactly like you're going to be breaking the bank.
I can see uses for this. Yeah. I can, and I think, you know what, I'm going to be getting that. I'm going to be getting that just because it just seems like it's the kind of thing that I'm not going to know I need until I need it, and then I'm going to want it really badly. So for $6.90, it's worth having. Ken?
Yeah, I can't think of any particular uses for it immediately because normally everything is, as they say, to hand. But yeah, no, I see its use because initially I was looking at it and going, oh, it's about as useful as that bloody remote I've got for the PS3200 downstairs. Because there's a remote for the program changes.
Yes.
And the cable is about 2 foot. So when you've got the controller, this remote control for its memories, you can still reach and hit the buttons anyway, because it doesn't come it only comes about 2 foot away from the whole unit. There's absolutely no point to it at all.
Well, we seem to have
I get it now.
We seem to have sort of wandered down a rather techie vintage. No, it's good vintage synthy sort of getting into the bowels of things and matrices and we're kind of almost in, dare I say it, Radiophonic Workshop territory. And
oh boy,
talking of which,
was that a slick link?
It was the only one. The only one we're going to have the whole show. Bring back Robbie.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it. Gotta have it. Gotta have it.
That's been on the cards for years.
An awful long time. The thing is, we all know that the Radiophonic Workshop did all sorts of wonderful stuff. I mean, they weren't the only people doing it, but they were kind of paid to play, to just dick around and come up with weird shit and try and find ways of making things happen. And their library is huge. And this particular sound set, I'm just going to share with you as soon as I can get to where are we? Present. Share screen. Yes, we're going to share that screen. Here we go. Let me do this, and I'm going to go full screen on it, I think. There we go. So this is the collection, but this is just what's included. So there's archive content, Maida Vale and Found Sounds. So that's from the Maida Vale studios, which a certain gentleman that's sitting just behind Kent's right shoulder now owner of, I believe. Junk percussion, tape loops, synths, miscellaneous, and these are all the different sounds. So there's archive footage, Dalek control room, Davros interrogation, so all of the Doctor Who stuff and whatever. There's synths, there's junk percussion, spoke wheels, frying pan scrapes. But look at how long this list goes on. There's tape loops. I mean, the tape loops alone have got to be, just madly good. There's an awful lot here. And of course, it's all in the Spitfire audio. It's a standalone, so you can use it as a standalone or directly in your plug-in. I don't believe you need contact for this.
No. Thank God. No. It uses Spitfire's own engine.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just one of those collections of sounds that I think people of a certain age have to have. I'd just be really interested to see what you think. Kent, this must be your kind of thing, or is it not?
Oh yeah, no, it certainly is. Because you can reprocess these sounds as well, and make them your own, as it were. But yeah, I mean, can I think of? I'm trying to think. Is there a track that's really screaming out for the sound of Windy Miller's windmill?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that could be made into a rhythm, no problem. So, and I am of meager resources. I could never afford, even if I saved up forever, an ARP bicycle wheel, ever. Yeah, or the Moog coat hanger, So this, and nicely tucked away on a nice little drive. Yeah, you're sorted, mate. You got more sounds to mess with, and they've got some brilliant sounds in there.
I have, and Mr. Brooks, I'm coming to you because you do a lot of EMOMs, and one of the things you do is you do use snatches of audio samples.
Yeah.
And this just seems full of iconic shit, which is one. Yeah. Is it something that you'd be interested in?
I'm not really into the computer side of it and the plugins. I have some. Which I use occasionally just for the fun of it, really. I'm
just thinking of the samples, so just it's almost for the sample.
I know, but I've been quite particular about samples all of my musical life. In that, it's not a snobbery thing, but I like to source my own. And create my own, and often I'll know exactly what I'm looking for and where to go to get it. And Grace and I, when we're doing so, we actually think quite a lot about that side of it. How we go about it, and we don't really use a lot of what do you call it? Already made things. We make a lot of our own, and I think that's quite
so you're more after the sorry, here we go. You seem to be more in the way of performing that they did, the Radiophonic Workshop did, which is you make it up as you go, you curate the sounds you want from your own sources.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of things like samples, there's so much out there that it is actually quite overwhelming in terms of libraries. My brain can't compute it all. I mean, you see something like this and go, oh yeah, it's pretty. And I know if I had that collection, I'd love it. I know I would. It would be right up my street. But I'm one of those sort of daft idiots that stands in a kitchen with a microphone and some pots and pans and hits them, because then it's my own pots
I don't
and
think
pans.
I don't think that's an idiot thing. I think that's exactly where I came from, and I still do it from time to time.
So do I.
I
But
think it's a
this
great
is
thing
the
to do.
BBC effing radiophonic effing workshop.
Yeah, but anybody can buy
just
them.
for history.
There is that, Mike, and I do understand, and I really could be tempted for this, just for the sake of these are nice. Well, it's what was it, about £110 or something like that?
119 quid. It's on special offer. Special offer.
I mean,
down from.
It depends how you view it. It's either not a lot of money or it's an awful lot, depending on the way you think about it. So,
So I'm just going to jump in here. I'm going to get Mike onto this because I know he like me treasures this. I think for me the thing that I'm kind of most blown away by, I'm just going to bring this up. So it's the fact that pretty much all of these sounds, I know there's a lot of synth sounds in here as well, but they were a bit like you doing the EMOMs. Each sound is the sound it was at that time. You never get exactly the same sound and performance again. The recordings here are very analog. They were just, they threw them together in the studio. In fact, if we go up, we might even see some of the sessions that they were doing. So they were doing this in the studios, in the round, bleeping things and then bashing things and doing whatever, putting them through amps. So for me, the reason I like this is because it is it's a really organic kind of sound set as opposed to a lot of the really highly processed stuff. Mike, what's your take on this? I'd love to know what you'd make of this.
What, of the entire library?
Of that library, is it something, if you had it, would you use it?
Well, yes and no. I really am not doing a lot with desktop-based synthesis right now. Plugins, virtual instruments. I lean very heavily toward iOS because I'm big on user interface, and I believe that it's not the laptop that has killed electronic music, it's the mouse. I hate trying to either use a mouse or mess around with a control surface to do this stuff. However, that being said, once sounds are created and manipulated, then you can do some fairly interesting stuff with them. You can record them out and put them in an iOS app like Decent Sampler. And so as material to work with, yes, I would consider this wonderful, and I'll probably get a copy. Just because the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. I mean,
Thing is, Mike, it's not, as Andy said the same thing, which is, this seems to suggest that you could only use this on a desktop. But all of those sounds, if you find a sound you like, and I have to say, out of this entire lot, I might find 5 or 6 sounds that I would then want to use, for a something, and that's it. But those 5 or 6 sounds I wouldn't find anywhere else, and I'd use them outside of the desktop. I'd find them maybe on the desktop, and then I'd just by the way, I also agree with you about the mouse. This kills, the mice kills music.
Yes,
in such
and that's what I always say. It's not, people. Frankly, a person playing piano and a person doing music on a laptop do not have to look like the difference between a real musician and somebody doing their taxes. The fact is that really it's just the reason why somebody's staring so intently at their laptop while they're doing this is because they're moving a mouse around. Okay? That's really what it is. I mean, displays, you get a display on a Korg Oasis, right? But, the mouse and trying to hit these controls, turning a knob with a mouse. Who the hell came up with that idea?
There is also the argument, though, that...
Well, that's where that comes in. That's the antidote to all of that.
Well, yes, it's one of them.
One of. It is an antidote.
Yes, and
so, and there is the Raven, which with the new software, the new versions of Raven, which looks good. I know Kent's been having some problems with it, but the interfaces are coming that make it a more friendly thing in the door. Personally, like yourselves, I prefer doing it almost in real time. I'll record stuff to a DAW like tape, but look at that. What's that?
And that is another solution to the problem. That is a lovely 32-step synthesizer sequencer that you can interact with in multi-touch, and that's why I use iOS rather than a laptop. Although,
so does iOS support AAX yet?
AAX? You mean the Pro Tools format?
No. Sorry, what am I talking about? The Mac audio units. So instead of VST3.
Oh no. What you've got on iOS. Very briefly, is a version of audio units called AUV3 version 3. And they bring a lot of the advantages of a plug-in environment. You can have multiple instances. You can save your stuff in a DAW or in the plug-in. Those do exist. The problem is that most of the existing iOS music apps were not designed that way. And moving to AUV3 is a major rewrite. So
as it is for a lot of people. So just coming back to this. So this lovely, it's a real trip down memory lane, and there are some great samples. I really do advise you to, someone could just drop the link in Spitfire Audio BBC Radiophonic Workshop into the chat. That would be great. Have a look at it.
Get on it, Ben.
There's either that or I will. It's a great thing, and Spitfire do some really good stuff. And talking of really good stuff, go on.
Oh, just one quick plug, something that went by in chat.
Sorry, by the way, hi Ben.
Hi Ben. Just very quickly, something that went by in chat. Steve Elbows was commenting that there were a lot of wonderful iPad synths and so forth. And Gypsy, Diana just said, yes, there are, Steve. That's the biggest understatement. Her entire discography was made on one iPad. So, yes, you can do it. And she does it.
You can listen. That's the thing about music. Anyone can make music with just about anything.
Well, yes.
It's kind of what's the interface that's good for you. The one thing I think we're all agreed on is the mouse is not the best interface for making music.
No, mouse is about the worst.
So, talking of such things, because we're already into this desktop now that we know you hate the desktop, and you hate at least two of us here hate the idea of interacting with DAWs and plugins. Who'd like to see a different plugin? And,
sure. Why not?
Yeah, this one's kind of interesting, actually. So here we go. I'm just going to play this, and I'll bring up some info on it. Here we go.
I make all different kinds of virtual instruments, and the kind that I'm most interested in are rare, unique, weird, expressive things that aren't in your everyday life. I'm immediately interested when it's just something I've never heard before or something really rare or special. Tempest's flagship release is called the Sigal Collection, Volume 1, and it's a collaboration between Tempest Instruments and the Sigal Music Museum in South Carolina. There are dozens of instruments in their collection that are important, special, unique instruments that don't exist anywhere else. We chose 6 instruments that are really cool, that complement each other, so that we could release the first volume. Volume 1 is a clavichord from Spain that is one of 2 instruments that was made by an anonymous maker in the late 1700s, and it was in this random monastery in Spain until recently. There's a broadwood that was found in London. Chopin played on it in a morning concert in 1848. But it's the same instrument that Chopin played when he was touring around Europe as well. And that's the Broadwood grand piano. There's also a Stein piano, which is this weird and cool little instrument that sounds kind of like a piano. And that was made in the late 1700s. And also an instrument that was played by Mozart and owned by the royal family in London. My favorite instrument in the collection is a Walter piano that has 4 pedals, which I've never seen before on a piano, but it has the typical sustain pedal and a soft pedal, which is also called a keyboard shift, because the keyboard moves over just a little bit so that it's hitting fewer strings. The hammers are hitting fewer strings. But then it also has a moderator pedal. When you put the moderator pedal down, a layer of felt goes on the strings and it makes this really nice, warm, muffled, percussive sound. And then it has a bassoon pedal, which I had never heard of until recently, and it lowers like paper or leather, and it creates this buzzy, abrasive sound that is meant for like bass notes. One of the oldest instruments in the collection, it's from 1660, and it's an Italian harpsichord that has a gorgeous landscape painting on the inside of the lid, and it's a much...
And for the gorgeous landscape painting, that's why we're here, really, for the gorgeous landscape painting. So it's an interesting collection of instruments. I rather like that piano with the 4 pedals. Is it... I mean, I looked at this and I was kind of, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then I thought, do we really need 5 more keyboards? But the sound of one of them is clearly it's what Chopin played. And by the way, it still had the original strings that were in it when Chopin played it. So it's the same ones he played, and it's been sampled. Thoughts on this, gentlemen?
Well, I know the guy who helped record this set.
Really?
Yeah, Chris Stack.
Did Chris do that? Okay,
he works at the Sigal collection, actually, and helped put this stuff together. And he was talking to me about it just as it was becoming released, and a little bit before, because he and I are friends. But Chris was fairly well involved, I believe, in the process, and was telling me that these are gorgeous instruments, and the Sigal collection is the most amazing thing. If I get a chance to go back to Asheville anytime, I'm going to take a day trip down to South Carolina and go visit it. So this is gorgeous, gorgeous stuff.
Gorgeous collection. Is it one that you'd buy?
Me?
Yeah.
No, because my interest when it comes to pianos and historical keyboards lies in other directions. If I want to mess with something that's kind of a little bit weird in the old piano space, my first instinct is going to be go to Pianotech. I'm going to model it rather than use samples. And Pianotech is available for iOS. So.
And, well, we've got our resident sort of piano meister that loves pianos. Ken, you like a piano sample set. You do.
Yeah, I have been known.
Does it intrigue you at all?
Intrigue, yeah. Want, not so much. I can see scorers going for this because, like he does, where you pick an instrument and then you build around that weird instrument.
Around that sound. Yeah.
So he did it with like Interstellar by using that ancient organ halfway around the planet.
Are you saying he's got an ancient organ?
Well, apparently, but
okay.
Yeah. The thing is, when it comes to pianos, I end up either going for a C7 or an Imperial, and I got libraries that cover both of them very, very well. And again, like with Mike, it got Pianotech to jump on as well. And I can shape the sound of the piano that I want for the particular.
I mean, that's a lovely looking piano.
Well, yeah, but you see, that's what these are. These are things that you go to look at and go, "Isn't that beautiful?" And oh wow, would it fit into anything I'm working on? Perhaps not. They have very unusual sounds to them. Acoustically, they're not exactly better than today's stuff. In many ways, they're much worse.
Inferior.
In fact.
Yeah.
In many ways. So it's a nice thing to have, but it's just objet d'art. It's not musically useful immediately to any particular person who wants to get a piano sounder.
Well, here's the thing, though. The reason why they're doing this is not for punters like us. The Sigal collection is being created because these instruments will not last forever, and the students are not allowed to touch them.
Yeah.
The idea with these is that it is as loving a sample collection as they can make, as thorough as they can make it, so that a student who is studying this stuff can play the instrument without touching the real one.
There was a nice piece in the video we just saw, which is online. You can see that, and it was talking about how when they came to sample all of these instruments, particularly the 300-year-old piano thing, they were talking about because they have to hit it hard as well as soft, and it's kind of, but if we hit it really hard, is it going to break something?
Oh yeah.
And it was a real concern for them, but they had to do that to get the full representation of the whole sound. And I suppose from that point of view,
not on harpsichords and clavichords, they don't have velocity response. They're plucked.
No.
They're plucked. And that, by the way, is one of the reasons why one of the very first things Pianotech did back in version 2, I think, was they had this enormous free collection of modeled old pianos from the 19th and 18th and 17th centuries, because modeling you can do with a lot less of the bang, bang, bang. So they were able to do a better job.
You just wanted to say bang, 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 didn't you?
Well, no, I bang, bang, bang did not.
You see, here's the thing. I don't think Andrew's, Mr. Brooksy, is that interested in this, but from a historical point of view, you can see the value of it.
I've got no interest in purchasing it. I'm actually really fascinated. I'd not heard of the Sigal collection. I love the fact that it exists. The only thing that's similar in my experience was going to visit the Beethoven house in Bonn, which houses his piano. And you get to that room, you get the tour, and you get to that room, and the guide says, "Does anybody here play piano?" And the people put their hand up, and, "Well, would you like to have a play?" And I just said, no way, no, I'm not worthy of touching that thing. No chance. I just can't. I can't touch the piano that's had Beethoven's hands on it. No, I can't do it. It was a very peculiar moment, really, because, if there's a piano in a room, I'm one of those people that goes over and has a little tinkle. Not then. But, I love the fact that they're doing it, like you said, to preserve these instruments that cannot possibly last forever. And oddly enough, unplayed, they'll deteriorate anyway.
Yes.
That piano that Chopin used when he was in London in 1840, whatever. What a lovely piece of musical history. I can go soggy with nostalgia, as Tom Lehrer would have said about things like that. And I doff my cap to this company for being so fastidious in doing it. I hope the collection grows as an archive of vintage is the wrong word.
Thing is,
antique instruments.
Yeah, there are so many instruments out there that haven't been caught. I mean, there's a whole bunch. People have just started. I say just started. There was a sample collection released last year of Japanese and/or Chinese stringed instruments. That was kind of interesting, but I didn't see anywhere in there specifically ancient versions of those instruments, with a particular tonality. So, it was just it seemed almost like a default Shizan or whatever it's called. It was very odd because I wanted to know a bit more about the history and this kind of thing. This does, I said at the beginning, I wasn't quite sure I could see what it was for. Do we need more of these? In my case, I think we do need these. And I can see that Hans would love this. I'm not sure if it would be up Ty Street or not, but I think it might be. I'd like to play with this. But anyway, it's $129 on a special deal.
And well worth it. And the money does get cycled back to help with these educational efforts. There are a couple of other places that are doing it. There was a German company that sampled some really, really obscure old keyboard instruments and made them available. But they only worked in EXS. They only worked in Logic. And that company is no longer around. And then there are other living collections, living museums where you can go to play instruments. The one that's closest to me is in Canada. It's the National Music Center in Calgary, Alberta, which among the various bits and pieces of electronic, and there's a studio where you can play a 17th century clavichord and turn around and play tanto.
That's good. That's a good thing. So here's the thing. It's 129 on special offer, intro offer. So there's $20 off. It's normally 149. If you're interested, and if anyone wants to get it, I mean, do. I'm thinking about it because I really do like these kinds of piano things. But what occurs to me, he said, doing a very, very poor link, is the one thing we've all discovered is this is all sort of inspirational stuff, isn't it? It's stuff which is inspiring us. Wouldn't you say, this historic thing? Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We want to know what music inspired you to make music with synthesizers. Be it an album, single, or an entire artist's body of work, we want you to tell us why it inspired you, and given that we're a synth show, which instruments used on that album really made an impact. All you need to do is film yourself talking about your synthspiration for a few minutes, and we'll feature it on the show and discuss it. Send your video clips along with your name or handle to prosynthnetwork@gmail.com using a file sharing service like WeTransfer, and you could feature on a ProSynth Network live show soon.
And yes, I mean, there we go. So we do actually, we weren't sure we'd get one, but we actually do have a Synthspirations video.
I've got to get one done. Sorry, I've not got round to it. I'm really
You
must.
do. And I mean, we were down to nothing, and then the wonderful Mr. Matt Evans stepped in, and he's done his.
Rock on, Mike. Mike?
Yeah.
Matt.
Mike?
Matt.
Brian.
Matt.
Don't
Arthur.
ever tell me to rock on. I go on enough with nobody encouraging me.
Righty-ho. So
Rock on, Matt.
here's the thing. He's done this. This is, we've done, people have done these in lots of different styles. But as far as I know, and I'm going to ask you all to mute yourselves when this plays, as far as I know, no one's done one with telepathy before. Are you ready? And 3, 2, 1.
Mute Mike.
That was unique and brilliant.
It was, in fact. And Andrew is muted. But he's doing that deliberately because...
There we go. That's us all unmuted. That was absolutely stunning.
That was great.
It was
Matt
very
seems
clever.
seems to be telling us that there was actually audio on it that none of us heard.
Did you not hear any of that?
There was no audio at all playing through.
I heard it. Mike?
Nope.
No.
Dead silent.
No.
Actually, to be honest, Matt, it was really effective.
Yeah, it was really, really
knowing
good.
Knowing your love of Depeche Mode and enjoy the
Do you
silence.
know what? I have just
I
given 6
actually thought
minutes.
that's what you were doing.
Yeah, I didn't
Dead
hear...
air.
I
Matt actually did that for us, and I'm gutted that didn't.
Right, you have to do it again now.
Why.
Work it out.
So
no, we never heard any audio.
There was no audio at all.
I will.
The
well, thank you for
silence
letting
was
me know.
brilliant. The
I will.
silence was.
We thought it was deliberate.
No.
It would be just
He's
like you,
talking-
Matt, in your quirky way.
It was
He's
accidentally
talking
brilliant.
all the way through it. He's talking all the way through it. I will make sure a copy goes up. I will put a link in. Matt, drop a message in the chat. If you are okay with me, I will drop that inspiration.
Matt is upset.
He's a little knocked. Yeah.
No, it was brilliant.
Let's do a quick vote here. A very, very quick vote. If you would like to hear this with the sound, I can probably pull that together right now.
Yes,
would you
please.
like it up? Played
Yes,
again?
please. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
well, if he's gone to the trouble of this, then
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, he
Then
has.
I am absolutely fine with that.
Stay
Let
where
me
you
get
are,
rid
Matt.
of
Don't
this.
run off.
Stay where you are. I'm going to try and find...
It was a very surreal experience, though, and actually
was.
unnervingly
it
good.
actually worked, didn't it?
It really was. It really was.
Right,
But no,
let's
didn't hear
this.
a word of it.
Here we go. I'm going to try this again. If this doesn't play, then I'm really, really, really in trouble. Here we go. Let's give it a go.
This is Matt Evans. And
Yay.
Hearing that?
my synth
Yes.
I grew up in the 70s listening to the music that my parents were listening to. So mainly the Stones, the Beatles, Moody Blues, the Shadows, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Rick Wakeman. And I never really paid attention to it. And then in 1974, Kraftwerk dropped this album. When I heard the title track, and specifically the middle eight with that sort of modulated bass sound and the white noise snare sound,
Mute mics.
I remember even as a very young child thinking, what the hell is that? And that first sort of turned me on to synthetic sound because it was so unlike anything I'd ever heard before. Jump forward to 1976, although I wouldn't have heard this until 1977, and Jean-Michel Jarre dropped Oxygen. Again, it was a similar thing. There were certain sounds in Oxygen 4, which would have been what I would have heard, that made me prick up my ears, and it made me realise that it wasn't necessarily tracks that I was listening to or that I wanted to hear. It was noises. I was interested in unusual, strange noises, and that became the basis for a lot of the tracks that I've discovered and the bands that I've discovered ever since. There's always been a strong visual element to my life. My mother was an excellent painter in her younger years, and my father was one of the most eminent photographers of his time. And so I remember being in Wolverton about 1979 and seeing this single, this record cover with a really, really striking visual aspect to it for me. So I picked it up and bought it, not realising, of course, that Gary Newman was who Gary Newman was. once I took that record home and played it, I fell in love with it. And so I went back looking for Gary Newman, and that's when I came across the Pleasure Principle. There were plenty of tracks on that album that I absolutely adored, but of course the one that stands out, I think, for everyone is Cars. Again, put me right on to Gary Newman for many, many years. By 1981, my brother was influencing what I was listening to because I was hearing all of the stuff that he was discovering and playing. And he started playing this album called Duran Duran. And there was some really swooshy, stringy noises coming off of it, and so I sort of investigated and listened to it and started a real passion for the sonic stuff that Nick Rhodes was putting over the top of these albums. Of course, then I followed them and watched Nick Rhodes playing the keyboards that he did on TV. Found out that it was Krumars and Rolands and things like that. And then they released Rio in 1982. And I saw the stage set that they had with the big columns in the background, and Nick Rhodes with his Fairlight and this bloody great Roland sitting atop it, which I later found out was a Jupiter 8. And that was all over that album. And it was the sounds that machine made, as well as the looks of the thing, that gave me a passion for it. And I've loved them ever since. Never played one, and I hope to one day. But I love the looks and I love the sounds that I've heard many, many people, Howard Jones and Alan Wilder and people like that the noises they've extracted from that machine. All the way through the 80s, I listened to lots and lots of albums that seemed to catch my ear, things like Quick Step and Sidekick by Thompson Twins, Humans Live from Howard Jones, White Feathers by Kajagoogoo, lots of bits of Level 42 that I heard spilling from my brothers, Upstairs at Eric, Yazoo, Dare from the Human League, Pet Shop Boys, Please, and things like Sweet Drinks and Eurythmics. But bubbling under that all the time and all the way through it was a growing love for Depeche Mode. And then in 1987 they dropped Music for the Masses, and that was it. They became the band for me. In 1990, Depeche Mode delivered Violator, which has become one of my two favourite albums of all time, the other being Songs of Faith and Devotion. However, Violator is, for my mind, the perfect synth pop album. It's just my opinion. I know I'll get crap for that, but it is just my opinion. I love it. I love it to pieces, and it is probably the most inspirational album I've heard. And if I was to pick any of the ones that I've mentioned on this video, it would be Violator. That is my synth inspiration. Thank you.
So, I'm hoping to unmute everyone else. Matt, I owe you a huge apology, mate. Do forgive me for squonking that up the first time around, but I've got to say, I think, Mike, either you or I are unmuting or muting you. I think that's probably my favourite inspiration so far. I love what you've done with that. I love the fact that you're not saying it, you're reflecting on it, and you're filming yourself reflecting on it. And there was not a bad album in there.
Yep,
there really wasn't a bad album in there.
It was really worthwhile, and hopefully you weren't off-put by the first time through, because it was great both ways, and it was good hearing. It was good hearing, where this stuff came from in the work you're doing.
It's interesting. It's the first time that there's been a inspiration where I knew all of the albums that he's picked. So obviously we have a very similar trajectory in terms of what we'd listen to. So and I can't disagree with him about Violator. It's a masterpiece, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. It is.
It's funny.
And I think I know you think that you look like a twat when I did it without. And, again, my heartfelt. I will speak to you personally about that. My apologies, but look at the love you're getting in the chat, mate. Look at the love you're getting. This is, I think most people are saying best one yet. Certainly for me it is. So my apologies, but it was worth waiting for. And thank you all for such a positive response to my comment.
It's fine. We get past it. I think the only thing I'm bummed about is, I was going to do a silent one. So
that was never. There was no world or universe, parallel or otherwise, where that would ever happen, Mike.
Actually, Andrew.
Depends on what you mean by it as well.
Actually, never mind. I'm just hell with you.
If you do, we'll play.
Your timing was perfect, Mike. Your timing was perfect.
Yeah, well,
we'll play it. Ken, what are your? Yeah, did you like that one?
Yes. In fact, if I did a Synthspirations, it would look very much like that, but it'd be interspersed with more Vangelis and other bands. But pretty much those points would be present also.
Yeah.
It's a very, very similar path.
Well, I've promised to do 6 more, which make links further, because I just covered the Beatles and Abbey Road as my inspiration. But there is a journey, which is not dissimilar. There's a lot of albums that Matt's featured in there that I've got on my one as well, for all sorts of reasons. So, yeah, well done, matey. Yay!
Absolutely.
Didn't screw that up, did I? So,
not at all.
Did we listen? Do we like free shit?
We do like free shit.
We do.
Well, I don't mind paying for it, but
would you like some free shit? Here's some
personally,
free
I produce my own.
Hi, I'm Theo from the Crow Hill Company, and today we've got a very exciting and dynamic new addition to the Vaults collection, Solo Bodhrán. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the Bodhrán is a frame drum, which is a drum that has a drum head width greater than its depth. With this being one of the most ancient drum designs, the history of the Bodhrán is particularly murky. It is the heartbeat of Irish traditional music, and its spirited, driving effect really propels these traditional tunes along. It is also frequently played in solo contexts. It is shaped like a big tambourine and is played on its side with a tipper or beater in the right hand, and the left hand is on the inside of the drum controlling the pitch and timbre. The performer of this library is Callum Convoy, a celebrated Scottish percussionist and one of the most sought after bodhrán players in Scotland. So let's dive into what the GUI and this library has to offer. As ever, it's our intuitive Vaults GUI. The library is split into 2 parts. The white keys all play varying accented grooves. And the black keys are all multi-samples going from low to high. Both of these parts are velocity based, and the loops are time synced to your DAW, so we'll adapt.
And there we go. I'd love to know if any of you like this. Bear in mind, it's free. Andy, I know you've got your own issues with this particular thing, but I personally have always adored the Bodhrán, and I've, Kate Bush made great use of it in several of her things, but particularly the Hounds of Love album.
Hounds of Love album, it's all over it. It's beautiful.
It's all over it, and I bought one for my wife and one for me. It is the most extraordinary instrument to play, and it is really, it gets you right here. Anyone interested in getting this, because it's free?
Well, I became a huge fan of the Bodhrán when I'm actually sorry that Diana took off when she did. her husband of blessed memory, Gordon Smethurst, was a phenomenal player. And somewhere out there, there is actually some recordings that I did with Gordon playing the Bodhrán. And yeah, I'd probably tear up every time I used the damn thing. But yeah, free or not, that would be something I'd shell out for, just to be able to have the option of that wonderful sound.
Yeah. Ken, is this something that you'd like? Because you like that sort of organic drum sound thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Go on, tell us. What would you get it? Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact that it's free as well, for God's sake, what the hell?
Yeah, I know.
You know. But it's a useful little tool. I can certainly use that, especially up against things like small quartets and stuff like that. It really worked well.
And I think the other thing about it is I've used Bodhrán a lot. People don't know it in my tracks, but I use Bodhrán a lot because it just adds that skip thing, that triple beat thing, the boom, da boom, da boom, da boom, da boom, da boom, that kind of thing, which really drives the track forward, dance music or otherwise. It's a very organic. This sample collection sounds pretty organic. So, Andy, I know you have your reservations about Crow Hill, but what about this sample? What about the Bodhrán just by itself?
Well, no, I'm going to say it. I'm sorry, but I am. I can't go there for personal reasons. Christian Henson's views on transgender issues is one that I can't get past, given that my best friend's transgender. No, sorry. As an instrument, the Bodhrán is great. It's a beautiful thing. But I can't go here. Sorry.
Okay. I think to be fair, to give some balance to that, I think he has retracted, and I know that's not a fight. I understand exactly where you're at, so I completely I'm with you on that.
I didn't make that connection, Andrew. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. But honestly, it's not. I'm not going to hold anybody else to account.
Well,
I'm not.
I'm not doing that. My younger daughter is an LGBTQ activist. It's what she does, and I had totally missed that connection, and I'm sorry. Somebody in the chat said you should just learn to play the damn thing yourself.
But oddly enough, what Andrew's just said about actually playing it, I go, do you know what? You could just get yourself a Bodhrán and sample yourself playing it. It takes a long time, like any good the people that it's not just going widdly 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 widdly. Yeah, it takes time. It's got to. It's an art.
Tuning it whilst you're playing it. You hold the crossbar and you tune it, and you've got your finger jammed in, and where you hit it,
bends. Yeah,
getting the rhythm with your hands. And I know what people are going to say.
Andrew, do not show your middle finger to the camera while saying you're jamming it in.
It looks like he was doing a reach around.
Sorry. Oh no. Thank you, Michael.
Jamming it in. You keep jamming it in.
There we go. But no, you do. You're jamming your
I'm holding that little
or...
stick, aren't I? That's what I'm doing.
yeah. Holding a little stick.
Beater.
Yeah.
Let's
not talk about
thank you, Ian. I'd gladly borrow it. Yes, thank you, Mr. Cole. Yeah.
But just for anyone that wants to know, it is a free sample pack. It's from Crow Hill. There we go. It's done. We've said that. There is another freebie, though, if you're interested at all. Let me just see if I can bring this.
Let us fill our boots yet again.
Why not? This is an interesting one. We've still got some time. So here we go. I'm just going to present this, if I can. Let's get rid of that and do a share screen. Yeah, there we go. This is a free and open source physical modeling synth, the Rippler X. And I'm going to bang it up on the screen so you can see it. There we go. Let's go full screen on that for a minute. So you can download this from GitHub. I'll show you the other screen where you can get it from, or we can link to that. It's an interesting instrument. I don't know whether or not we would get a copyright strike for playing the playing the video there is, because it's not, I think it's been done by someone else. But it does look like an interesting synth, an interesting model. It's got some, it's like an awful lot of the others, but the controls on it look surprisingly simple, and yet the effect they have and the number of models they've got for it are quite extraordinary. I quite like this. Anyone else into physical modelling from our lovely group here?
Isn't it a little early in the day for? Isn't it a little early in the day for stupid questions, Andrew? You know me. Physical modeling is honestly. No, I love this. The fact that it says that it's in the same realm as chromophone, which I like, and collision, which I don't know as well, but also like. The whole excitation and resonance model of physical modeling is, sort of where it all got started. That's really where the Yamaha VL1 came from. The Techniques WSA1 worked that way. There's lots and lots of good territory to mine here. I've actually already downloaded it, but I haven't played it yet. But I am very, very curious to give this a shot.
And I don't suppose Andrew
it now.
Are you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a freebie I can take. At least I think I can. So I'm taking this, and I'll have a look. Yeah. But right now, I mean, like Mike's just said, physical modelling is cool, isn't it? It just sounds gret. So we don't know what I don't know what this is going to be like. Hopefully it'll sound good, but particularly the stringy string things are always a nice.
So
nice thing.
I've had a good play with it and a listen, and it comes with a limited number of presets, all of which sound pretty much like they're a vibraphone. Now that's just because I think it's a very early version. It's a very early version, and when you start playing with the different models, it's got. It's got a whole bunch of different models. So I think, there's, where are we? Acoustic resonators. So it's got string, beam, squared, membrane, drumhead, plate, marimba, open tube and closed tube. Now, all the presets sound very much like they've come from the same marimba preset to start. Not marimba, vibraphone. But once you start digging into it, you can actually get it doing some really quite curious and wonderful things. And you can actually have two resonators running at the same time, and you can either couple them in parallel or serial, and you can get some extraordinary sounds from this. Extraordinary sounds. And it's free.
That's very much like Chromophone's model, and I think that's really, really cool. These are great tools for playing with, and the fact that they're free. Some people might be a little bit intimidated by the fact that, for example, for the Mac, if you're getting, they teach you how to do super user low-level reprogramming to convince the Mac not to bother you about the fact that this doesn't have a certificate. Which, anytime that the programmer says, "Oh yeah, you just want to run super user, commands in the terminal," I'm thinking, "Oh, that'll end well."
And in case you're wondering, we know that Kent's had some problems with his internet over the last couple of days, and it takes him apparently 8 minutes to reboot his router when that happens. So we may see him before the end of the show, we may not. It can look intimidating, but I think what's really good about this particular interface, let me just bring it up again so we can see it, as it were. There we go. And up it goes. You can see it's actually quite well laid out. It looks very, very simple, but the ability, so the inharmonic knob there, actually you get different controls depending on which model you have, which of the various different models that you use. So on inharmonic, think of it a bit like FM kind of thing. It's adding different harmonics in there, and you've got a second one, a B-res, which does the same thing again. If you play around with the attack and decay, and particularly the sustained, I think with physical modelling, often people just end up with that pluck thing without any sustain. It's an interesting, and you can change things like the material, the hit, the release, and all those kinds of things. It's an interesting thing, and for free, it's certainly worth a play around with. And I'll certainly be getting it. Oh, and guess what? Hang about a moment.
It's
Hello,
back.
Mr. Kent.
Welcome
Hello.
back, Kent.
Hello.
Hi, Kent.
You were right, it was 8 minutes.
Give up on this bloody thing.
Oh, man.
We've been really successful so far tonight, haven't we? I've only played one video that had no sound.
Oh, God.
Didn't I do that before? I did that before. I played a whole video of something without any sound. I can't remember. And then I did it to Matt. Mate, I'm going to have to buy you so much cake, Matt. Or beer or jewels or something.
Both.
Well, make sure he knows that you played it again and that we loved it.
Yeah. I hope he does. I hope he hasn't just run away and gone, that's it, they're a bunch of buggers, and, he'd be quite right to do that, I suppose. But I hope not, because it was well loved and received. So we're just talking about this beastie, young Kent, which is the Rippler X. It's a physical modelling thing. It's open source and it's free. And it's actually quite a nice thing. Sorry, go on, Mike.
I was just going to say, the only thing I don't like about it is the fact that the goddamn logo is in Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Is it?
Close enough. Sorry, that's a running joke around here. My daughter actually has a T-shirt that says "Friends don't let friends use Comic Sans." Anyway,
do you know we're told to use it at work because it's a dyslexia-friendly font? Just saying it.
Well,
so I've spent ages turning old PowerPoints where everything was in Arial. Which was apparently a dyslexia-friendly font, but now no longer is because the A has got a funny little tail at the top of it, and that's not good. You've got to have a round A with a little stick. So now you've got to use Comic Sans. So, for similar reasons, Mike, I can have absolute empathy with you on bloody being irritated by Comic Sans.
No, I'm just sorry. It's because of what I do for a living. That's the first thing I'd gravitate to. It's like, wow, that's a really nice interface.
I'll tell you what, I saw a
simple
t-shirt
and it's clear.
yesterday. I saw a T-shirt yesterday, and I'm going to order one. And it said, "Did Cat I Farted steal your job?"
Did Cat I Farted steal your job?
Because in French, phonetically, Chat je te paie is Cat I Farted.
Cat GPT.
Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Chat
GPT.
Chat GPT.
Cat I Farted.
GPT.
So these T-shirts are, did Cat I Farted take your job?
No, that was a new... Hey, that's a good joke. I didn't know.
I love it. I'm having one of them.
So listen, we're getting close to the end of this car crash that I've been not running terribly well.
I know, I wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
Andrew,
don't worry, Andrew.
No. I think I've managed to hit all the parked cars down the street on the way, taken out a couple of phone boxes and hit
half
the
a pedestrian.
But hopefully.
Jim says, I miss the old days when we were talking about where the peanut was.
So here we are, being professional as ever. But my only real job that I cannot possibly afford to screw up at the end of this is next week you'll have a professional host, Mr. Robbie Puricelli, and he's going to be introducing the wonderful Marcus Ryle. He's going to be Marcus is
yummy.
Yeah, Marcus is going to be on the show. Marcus has been responsible for some astonishing stuff. He was working at Oberheim in the very early days. He went on from there to do a lot of work with, was it Elasis and a whole bunch of other people.
He launched Line 6.
Yeah, that was after he'd worked with all those other people. Then he did Fast Forwards, which was Fast Forward Synth or Fast Forward something, which was a sort of consulting company. And then he did Line 6. After Line 6, he went back to consulting with his lovely wife. And then they set up. I think he ended up working at Yamaha for a while, before finally coming full circle and getting back together with Bob to do the OB8. Tom, sorry,
Tom.
yes. So he's on the show next week. He's going to have a load of stuff to talk about. He's certainly going to be talking about the Matrix-12, which is he's signed because he was, as you know, part of the dev team on that. Fascinating guy.
He really is. And I'm very, 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 very blessed to call him a friend. He was my hero in the 80s, and now he and I we chat regularly. He's just extraordinary and an amazing player. He played keyboards on a lot of the big hits in the 1980s.
Yeah, I understand he did. He did things for
Whitney Houston and
everyone. So
that's going to be a great show, guys. Don't miss it. He's so much fun.
Put it in your calendar. I'll be sitting to one side, not screwing things up. So probably you'll get to hear all the audio and all the video, which would be good. Matt may have forgiven me by then, but in the meantime, we're getting close to the end of this show. We did have another little piece, but it's nothing that really matters. We can always cover that next week if we want to. So instead of covering something that's really not that interesting, why don't we find out what each of us has planned for this weekend? Young Mike, what have you got planned? What's coming up for you in this next week?
Well, I recently started a new job, which is taking up about half my week. The other half, I'm still doing my atomic word stuff. Over the weekend, I'm mainly going to be working on a very big project for a client that hopefully everybody will really enjoy when they see it. And then next week, I'm going to be kind of diving into getting my rig redone. I actually tore down my audio rig and I'm rebuilding it because I will be doing shows in Finland, and then I'm hopefully going to be playing at KnobCon in Chicago in September, and these are going to be some pretty complicated things, so I'm starting work on them now to get them started. So yeah, just fuck around and find out.
And your radio show, that's every week, every night.
Radiospiral.net, and
what
we
night?
now have
What night is it on?
Oh, it's 24/7, dude. You don't want to hear me.
Your show.
You don't want to hear me. You want to hear everybody else. Hello, puppy. Dog. Hi.
Not so puppy anymore.
Hi. Oh my God, I love dogs. No, just radiospiral.net 24/7, and you can go to the website and see there's so many wonderful hosts, and a lot of them are European time. We now have a bunch of programming that folks in the UK can listen to without having to stay up in the middle of the night.
Excellent. So we've got a minute left. Brooksy, what have you got planned for this week?
Typing. Synth East tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which will be a long day because it's the most inaccessible place in Britain, Norwich. So I'm driving to Norwich. There's Sheffield EMOM next Friday, I believe, but I'm not playing. So, but I will go down. Grace and I have got a number of EMOMs lined up in sort of April time. A Division, who's in the chat, he's organised an event in Graves Park in Bradford again. He did one in November, which was a lovely event. So he's done that. There are more people coming down to play, and it's on a Saturday, so in April. So hopefully we'll have good weather. We did in November actually. We had a really nice, pleasant, warm day in November. So that's happening.
Well, that's good. So that minute that we had.
Have I just filled it?
You more than filled it.
Sorry.
It'd be good to get.
Well, yeah. Going to be busy.
Go on.
But not quite yet.
You're going to be busy. Good. That's very.
What about
rude
Mr. Spong? Mr. Spong.
Well, that's where I was going next. If he's not dealing with dogs and internet's going down, what are you up to, Kent?
I'm ripping all this out.
So there's two. Is everyone ripping their studios apart?
Yeah, mine's all back
half of
together
it's
again.
not working properly, so it's got to all come out. Plus my power switch on my mains conditioner down there has bust. So most of the studio hasn't been turned off for 2 weeks.
God. Kent, Asio Head has asked, are we likely to have a pub?
Yes, at some point.
This weekend?
Yeah, it depends on how the year's doing.
Yeah,
I know.
I get
so
that.
Listen,
recover, man. Give yourself a rest.
Yeah.
Talking of this weekend, is that I know we've overrun, and SOR are probably symptoms of reality are probably screaming at us. Get off, you bugger! I'm sorry for overrunning. We will be finished shortly. What else have we got? We've got Rancy tomorrow.
Rancy's on tomorrow. Yeah.
Synchrotron's on in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah,
Probably
Andy's on at 10.
A 9 o'clock start again, Andy.
Yep.
Jamie's on at 1800 on Sunday.
On Sunday.
We've got
Get
Jervis on.
is going to be on as well.
Is he at 10?
Well, he's immediately after. Normally,
Okay.
I think he's. Oh, it's a 10 o'clock tomorrow. 10 o'clock start tomorrow.
Okay, 10 o'clock start for Synchrotron.
Yeah. Round probably, what, 1 o'clock, something like that?
Yep. And then we've got Symptoms of Reality tonight, probably a popcorn night, and then they've got their shows, every night. So there's a lot to be watching. And I think, gentlemen, somehow or another, despite me, we've got to the end of this show.
Yes,
Robbie, come back, Robbie.
Oh, he's on the other side of Mordor now, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
One does not simply walk into Norwich.
Mordor.
You shall not pass.
You shall not pass. Talking of which, I think we've passed, and it's time to wrap this
Thank you, guys.
up.
Always glad to be here.
Take care, chatties.
Thank you all for
Thanks,
watching. Listen, I know there's been some donations, but I don't know how to find them because I'm just such a knob.
Thank you for all those who've donated. It's very welcome.
Thank you for everyone that's donated. I really can't see them. Just fire me. Fire me.
You're
and
fired.
We'll see you next week when Robbie
if anybody's going to be in Synth East tomorrow, if anybody's going to be there, do come and say hello. It's always lovely to chat to people. So come and have a chat.
Do that. Synth East. So Robbie's at Synth East along with Peter.
Robbie and Peter are there.
And just get along. And then next week, Marcus Ryle here with a professional presenter. And I think that about covers it. Are we ready, gentlemen?
We are.
And
Bye.
3, 2,
Take care, everyone.
1. Take care. Bye.